I made my very own superhero when I was a kid, and since then I decided that I wanted to create stories and comic books about him, and have him be the next big character like Batman or Spider-Man. But I had no way to make this a reality or a fan base big enough to support this and make it grow to that scale. So from then on, I started grinding my art and storytelling skills to achieve the dreams of making my superhero the real deal. Meet Raptor, a superhero that fights for justice, freedom, and people's safety. Now you might ask, who and what is Raptor really? And I'm here to tell you about him. But before I tell you more about Raptor, I feel like I need to talk about this world and its history. Superpowered beings and daring heroes have existed for ages. They've been present in times of worldwide wars, into Victorian era, and even Dark Ages. The people always had someone looking out for them and to look up to. But let's dive into the 80s and 90s, where a great superhero with the power that would defy gods and inspire everyone around him was such a symbol of bravery and heroism that made the world a much better place. This hero was called Brave, and his abilities come down to adaptability, flight, and super strength, making him pretty much immortal. I'm sorry, Darwin, didn't make you justice in that movie. Which is funny, because one day while he was fighting a daring threat, he took the fight into space, which resulted in an explosion that people on Earth could even see. And Brave hasn't been seen since then. The people started to fear what would happen without him there to protect. No other hero was as powerful as him. They became so dependent on Brave that they had to basically rebuild their own fighting spirit. So much so that they decided to make superheroes illegal to not fall back to a point where they feel weak and in constant need of them. Which definitely wouldn't end well, since evil superpowered people still existed. Later on, at the end of the first decade of the 2000s, the alien empire known as the Shri arrived on Earth, ready to conquer the planet. The entire world's military and an organization known as SAFE would fight back, ending with a lot of casualties as well as some accidents that gave the world some new protectors, even though they legally couldn't do anything. As a kid, Brian Brands saw his father Dale Brands as a role model, always ready to help and making the world a better place with his technological advancements. But one day, during the Shri invasion, in the climax of the war, Dale was killed in his company's building. When Brian came of age, he joined the organization SAFE to go out on the hardest missions to save people, as a way to cope with his father's untimely demise. SAFE is a militaristic organization where only the best of the best can be part of. They specialize on taking care of the most dangerous operations around the world, like rescuing hostages, taking down terrorist groups, and occasionally some espionage. Brian later resigned and went back home to Trail City to live with his mother Amanda Brands, to live a better life. That is, until the Shri attacked. Again. As they've been hiding and planning their conquering a second time, but now they have the help of the world's #1 mercenary, Dead Arrow. Brian is forced to go back into a life of danger as Raptor, with a suit designed by his childhood best friend and genius Robbie Jackson, and his new friend Emily Price. The fight against the Shri escalates to the point of Raptor needing to fight his way in the mothership and having to battle against Dead Arrow in a gladiator-style spectacle before facing the Senator, the Shri's conquering leader. Now you might be questioning, what are his abilities? Does he have any superpowers? And the answer is no. Raptor doesn't have any superpowers. I know that superpowers are a defining characteristic of the superhero genre like super strength, flight, and laser beams. But I also love writing the challenges of someone just like us facing great odds and coming up with ways to overcome them. Raptor's abilities are mostly acrobatics, martial arts, a very tactical mindset, and the use of plenty of gadgets, such as his gloves designed to electrocute his enemies and also with retractable claws. And as usual, there's no superheroes without their villains. You heard before about Dead Arrow and the Senator in this video. Dead Arrow is a mercenary that's been through a lot in his life. Wars, contracts, torturing, and more. He's convinced that at this point humanity has no redemption, so he cares little to nothing about lives. So that's why he decided to join the Shri to end it all. But Raptor's morals seem to make him intrigued, in putting it to the test and see if humanity can still be saved. He's an expert marksman, specialized in archery and lots of guns, as well as martial arts and swords fight. The Senator is the one responsible to take over planet Earth in the name of the Shree Empire. Not much is known about him except for his very tall height and strength that would defy that of Captain America's. He commands an army of Shree soldiers, but these are slightly shorter, red, and with a slightly different look. And now we step into the territory outside of Raptor's origin story, villains that will only appear in other stories. First we have Lady Static, a thief turned into an electrifying foe through two different procedures. Laura Sparks was once robbing a bank at night when suddenly she is interrupted by a Raptor, but manages to escape, finding a mysterious figure in a dark alleyway offering her a job. She returns later with shock gauntlets robbing another bank, and tries to take Raptor down once again, but fails miserably by being tricked and having her gauntlets removed. She then gets genetically altered to have electricity powers so that Raptor doesn't have to take them away anymore. And then we have Battlebee, a dangerous mercenary named Zachary Zellar that's offered the job by the same mysterious figure, giving him a bulky black and yellow bee-themed armor that allows him to fly, shoot metallic stings through his gauntlets, and spray a suffocating pollen that causes swelling and starts asphyxiating them. He's also a marksman and combat expert, almost rivaling Dead Arrow's skills. Now the big guy here is called Bulldozer, a 2.40 meters tall, or 7'11" for my fellow Americans, Spanish man with a desire to take down Raptor after seeing on TV that no one's being able to do so. He travels to the US in a bull-themed luchador suit, but is quickly defeated by Raptor. I should mention that this guy is able to stop bulls with his bare hands, so that must have been embarrassing. He's then dragged out of the street and wakes up at a high-tech lab with an armor that makes him harder, better, faster, stronger, and not affiliated with Daft Punk. This lab belongs to an organization called Experience, the same guys responsible for the upgrades of the previously mentioned villains. They also belong to the mysterious figure. And then on the criminal underworld side of this, we have the Viper, a smart, menacing, and calculating mob boss that runs the crime around Trail City in the classic mafia style, manipulating, neutralizing, and spreading fear to those who oppose him. He wears a beige and white formal outfit and a mask that covers part of his face, including his eyes. His face is never seen. Even in prison, he still wears the mask. He also possesses a snake-themed cane, which is actually a hidden blade. And last but not least, we have the Golden Eagle, a man in a black and gold suit wearing huge metallic wings that can be a huge threat to Raptor, taking the battles to the skies where he can't fight back so easily. He's a very tactical and highly intelligent foe, of big importance for this first story arc that takes place after Raptor's origin story. Unfortunately, I can't talk much about these guys to not end up spoiling some cool things and some other villains that still need to be polished, so they didn't make it to the list for this video. Sometimes these things don't come from a light bulb appearing above your head out of thin air, but from something you love or that you're doing. I've been a fan of superheroes since I can remember, so like any other kid, I checked out anything related to my taste, such as movies, toys, TV shows, and video games. And one day, I stumbled upon this MMO game called DC Universe Online, where you can create and play with your own superhero or villain in the DC Universe. So I thought to myself, man, how cool would it be to be like Stan Lee? So I created this guy. Yeah, I did not have any good fashion sense back then, but it got way better. After playing with this character for months on end, I started feeling like creating my own video game with Raptor. But then I noticed all these superheroes did not start in a video game. They started in comic books. So that moment set the sails for me. I would draw Raptor at school and would always try new designs. Totally not taken from the Batman Arkham games. Yeah, originality wasn't that strong back then, but eventually I grew out of it, as this is how he looks like today. At the start, I wasn't able to settle on an origin story for him, as I had thought of making a villain that was gonna be the killer of his parents. This villain, of which there are no sketches or even name, was very shallow and without any substance, and I wasn't really feeling this idea, so I settled for making Dead Arrow the villain that took Brian's father's life, since his profile fits. I wanted to make this a situation where we could see Raptor on a difficult position about his morals, whether to take Dead Arrow down or take him out of the picture permanently. Then at high school I met one of my best friends, Bruce, who also shared the same kind of passion and wanted to create these characters and stories with me. We ended up deciding to make Raptor's origin a 6-issue story, which was very different from the one we ended up going with. It was a much more grounded story without aliens, with some characters that didn't make the cut, and without a lot more of them that never existed back then. And later I met Ryan Haack, an inspiring American comic book writer that wrote short comics meant for portfolio that wanted to collaborate with me on a mini comic that he wrote. We became friends quickly, and because I liked his writing, I asked if he wanted to turn Raptor's story into a script. He accepted, and with his help and opinions, we changed up the story and added the Shri, a group of vigilantes in the equation, and a few extra things, making it an even better starting point for this universe. Check out some of his work in the links in the description. Getting back to the designs, you probably noticed that I also always gave him armored suits instead of the classical spandex kind of suit. But thankfully I changed that. I wanted to go for a modern superhero look instead of a retro design, as we're not in the 60s anymore. I kept the hood, mask and cape from the previous versions because I really liked them and helped keeping the character more unique in a way. The colors stayed grey, black and red because I really like that color scheme. It really makes him stand out. Clearly, one of the biggest inspirations amongst many for Raptor was Batman, as I mentioned on my previous video. I even took a design element from him, that being the swordbreaker blades on his gloves. I really think they're awesome and also practical, but at the same time, to not make him too much like Batman, I changed some stuff about him. Like for example, I made these metallic tubes on his gloves that shoot the grappling hook instead of a full-on grappling gun. In my mind, the black parts of his suit are protective but flexible, and the red parts being the most well-protected areas. The symbol has two very abstract meanings. It's supposed to be an extremely abstract bird with the wings open and also 2 arrows, that being because he will also use a bow and arrow. This comes from my admiration from the skill it takes to be able to shoot arrows so accurately. I'm really happy with the final design for him and can't see him having a redesign for his main suit anytime soon. Sure, like every superhero, he'll have some cool new suits at some point, but this is basically his design story. At the end of the day, Raptor wasn't the only superhero I had in mind. Back in my school years, I asked a very few friends of mine for a type of character and color scheme they wanted me to draw, and I came up with some more characters. The goal isn't just creating Raptor and his stories. It is also to tell stories of multiple heroes, their achievements, their fights, their struggles, their flaws, and even their downfall in some of the situations. It is to create this incredible universe of heroic tales. And soon, you'll also know about these other 2 characters. Thank you so much for sticking around and get to know more about Raptor. I want to do more videos of these to grow this community and be able to bring all of these fantastic stories to life. Comment down below what you think about Raptor, what you want to see in the future, or even if you have your own superhero. If you want to read Raptor number 1, also called Raptor the Preamble, be sure to click on the link in the description and consider buying the PDF in Global Comics. Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow more about Raptor or comics in general. Follow me on Instagram, which is where I'm mostly active, and consider joining my Discord server. See you in the next one.